Once upon a time, there was a beautiful African maiden, Adaeze, who was married into one of the wealthiest families in the land. 4 years, she lived with her husband, Okena, waiting for the day she would carry a child, but that day never came. Each year, her belly remained flat, her hopes crushed. Adaeze prayed relentlessly, begging God for even just one child, even if it was incomplete, she pleaded. But no miracle happened, and slowly, her life became unbearable. Her mother-in-law, a powerful and cruel woman, began to openly mock her. At every little mistake, she would lash out, calling her barren, a man, or worse, a useless piece of firewood. Each word struck Adaeze like a spear to her heart, but she kept silent, hoping her husband would stand by her. But Okena, who once comforted her with gentle words, changed. His patience wore thin, and one night, after a lavish dinner, he gave her an ultimatum. "If you do not give me a child, Adaeze," he said, his voice cold and hard, "I'll throw you out and marry a real woman who can." That night, Adaeze cried herself to sleep, more desperate than ever. Her dreams, once filled with hope, now turned to nightmares of loneliness and shame. She would wake up in cold sweats, hearing the words firewood echo in her mind. One evening, as she sat alone on the balcony of her husband's grand mansion, staring out at the horizon, a strange thought crept into her mind. What if I asked the mermaids for a child? The river near their village was feared for its mystical powers, and many whispered that the mermaids who lived beneath its waters could grant impossible wishes for a price. Adaeze had heard the warnings, but in her despair, she saw no other way. She thought about it the entire night, her mind turning over the risks and possibilities, and by morning, her desperation overtook her fear. Without telling anyone, she wrapped herself in a simple cloth and walked straight to the river, where the mermaids were believed to dwell. The water was deep and foreboding, swirling as though something moved beneath its surface. Her heart pounded, but she fell to her knees by the water's edge and cried out, her tears mixing with the river. "Please, whoever you are, whatever spirit listens from beneath these waters, grant me a child. I beg of you," she cried, her voice trembling. Suddenly, the water stirred violently, and from the depths emerged a majestic mermaid, her scales shimmering in the light of the setting sun. Her eyes, piercing and filled with an ancient power, locked onto Adaeze. She was terrifyingly beautiful, her long dark hair flowing behind her like waves. The river seemed to quiet at her presence. "You have called upon the mermaids, and here I stand," the mermaid said, her voice echoing. "Why do you come to us, childless woman?" Trembling, Adaeze sobbed, "Please, I beg you. I have been barren 4 years, and my life is falling apart. My husband no longer loves me, my mother-in-law mocks me, and I am despised for my empty womb. Please, grant me a child, even if it is incomplete." The mermaid's eyes darkened for a moment before she spoke. "We can give you what you seek, but it will come at a cost. Nothing from the world of spirits is given without a price." Adaeze nodded without hesitation. "Anything. I'll do anything for a child." The mermaid's lips curled into a knowing smile. "Very well. You shall bear a child, but know this, no man, not even your husband, must ever lay eyes upon this child before its 3rd birthday. If any man sees the child, you will lose more than you could ever imagine." Desperation clouding her judgment, Adaeze agreed. She returned home, and soon after, she felt life stirring within her. The villagers marveled at her sudden pregnancy, and her mother-in-law, for once, was silent. Even Okena seemed relieved, though something dark lingered in his eyes. Months passed, and Adaeze gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. But she hid him from all, keeping the child locked away in a private chamber. Only she tended to him, as the mermaid instructed. Whenever Okena asked to see his son, she lied, saying the baby was ill and fragile, not ready to be seen by anyone. As the child grew, so did Okena's suspicion. He began to question Adaeze more frequently, demanding to see the boy. One fateful night, after a heated argument, Okenna forced his way into the chamber. The moment he laid eyes on the child, a terrible scream filled the house. The baby, once healthy, shriveled into a lifeless form. Adaeze screamed in horror as the mermaid's warning echoed in her mind. Okenna collapsed to the floor, his body frozen like stone. Adaeze rushed to his side, but it was too late. The mermaid's voice rang in her ears. "You have broken our covenant. You wished for a child, and you were given one. But now, the life of your husband is the price you must pay." Heartbroken and shattered, Adaeze wept over the body of her husband. The wealth, the child, all of it meant nothing now. Her desperate wish had cost her the love of her life. She realized too late that some miracles come with curses, and some wishes should never be made. From that day on, Adaeze lived in mourning, haunted by the choices she had made. The moral lesson of this story is that you should never seek from the spirits what you cannot afford to lose.